Also, we are going to speak, and hopefully we'll cover a little bit of the Yunim. There's a moedik medish. I don't know why they brought it up a little bit late over here. You have to get without the kugel; it doesn't go. There's a moedik medish in this week's parsha that I think talks to a lot of us. Basically, the medish brings down that when Yaakov left Haran, and after he was abused by Eliphaz, and after Eliphaz basically stole all of his money, the lashon of the Medrash is that Ma ano moivet sivri miberi. Does that mean I have to lose faith in my Creator? He says, does that mean that the Eibush should let go of me? I'm traveling now to find a wife, and I'm basically penniless. That means I'm all is lost. So Yaakov, answered his own question. He says, Chas v'shalom, can't be that way. I'm not going to lose my faith that the Rebbeinu Shalom is going to help me. That the Eibush is going to help me. And the Pashup Pshat is that he felt very lost. And the Meishaleich, the Izbitze, explains that Yaakov's heart was basically broken. He saw he had no money. He saw in Rachnius, he felt a lot less than his forefathers. And the reason being is his forefathers were busy with Rachnius the whole day. Yitzchak was busy davening and learning the whole day. Avram was busy with Achnasas Archim. He's the first one that has to go out, to go make a living, go find a wife. He says, there's something wrong with me. I'm the black sheep. And he felt that even they were Isaac and big things, and it seems like I'm disconnected. And then he was mechazik himself, no, pink fakert, that with my avodah, I'm going to connect to the Rebbeinu Shalom, and the Rebbeinu Shalom is going to help me, that I'm going to accomplish whatever I'm supposed to be doing. And it's interesting, Avlai B'la Eiger explains a little bit differently, that he explains that the next words of Vayifka B'Makan is that, what does it mean, Vayifka B'Makan? That he banged into the place. Avlai B'la Eiger says he was mechazik himself by remembering who created the world. He says, I'm worried that I'm coming to go find the Kala, I have no money. Al Pidei Chateva, who's going to want to marry me? And then he says, well, wait a second. Who put me into this matzah? The Rebbeinu Shalom. And the Rebbeinu Shalom created the world. So the Rebbeinu Shalom can't help me. And I think that this was a very common denominator that Yaakov Avinu lived with. I think this week I was talking to somebody, and the fellow was dealing with a very difficult situation. Basically, a family member who's narcissistic and was mamish turning everything over, and it's all about them, and it was getting very, very. And I asked the fellow, how do you think Yaakov Avinu managed with a father-in-law who was a total crook? He works for 7 years for one wife, he ends up with another wife. Now his father-in-law, instead of being embarrassed, he's not embarrassed at all. He says, I'm right, you're wrong. We don't do this way, that we give the younger one before the older one. You have to do minhag hamakom. So now we're going to marry the younger one, but work another 7 years. Obviously, fill up my pockets, but work another 7 years, and I'll give you the younger one. I'm just wondering how some of us would have reacted, right? Maybe we'd have taken a sledgehammer, maybe something else. It would have been Yom Tov in the Vachim. But then you finish the 14 years. He worked for 14 years for 2 wives. That's a serious amount of time. And now he says, now I have to make parnasa. So the father says, no problem. We'll make up that all the spotted ones will be yours, all the speckled ones will be mine. We're going to make a agreement. But you would have thought that it's done, it's finished, everyone's happy. Maybe I said this over to Avrumi. I told you over this word already. Yeah, it's good chazara. The Master Lavan starts changing anytime he sees he's starting to make money, Lavan starts changing the terms. Lahavdil nowadays in Amazon, everyone's tzabrachim about working on Amazon, because as soon as you have a good product, Amazon starts taking it for themselves. So Amazon does not want you to make money. It's heartbreaking. Lavan was the same thing. He changed his wages 100 times. So how's it possible?
In the Jewish tradition, after the job, you start negotiating for the second time.
So how's it possible that Yaakov Avinu didn't lose his brains? How they keep normal and sane? If we have a father who switches once or twice, promises to give us something and doesn't give it, we're already os mensch. How was he able to keep normal and keep on going? And the pshat is very pushit. That Yaakov Avinu understood that if the Eibishter put me into this matzah, this is exactly the matzah I'm supposed to be in. If the Eibishter gives me a child that's giving me a little bit of aggravation, it's not pshat that I have a tzara. I have a right to be upset. I have no right to be upset. This is exactly where I'm supposed to be, because for me, this is good. This is exactly good for me. And a lot of times, fakert, when a person recognizes that this is good for me, and he accepts it, first of all, you're able to handle the challenge. Instead of being an angry, bitter person, you live through life a lot calmer, because now you're equipped to try to deal with it. But then there's another nakuda, which is a very strong nakuda. What's the reason Leah was zoichet to have 4 children right away? Says the pasuk, Vayar Hashem kisnua Leah. Hashem saw that Leah felt unloved. Leah felt in pain. So what happened? Leah started davening. And when a person has challenges and they feel the challenges, by accepting it, they recognize that the Eibishter runs the world. But then, when they realize I have to overcome the challenge, in those moments, they start connecting to the Rebbeinu Shalom. And by connecting to the Rebbeinu Shalom, they're able to accomplish a lot more. One of the lashons of tefillah is batzar. Betzar l'cho Hashem ekra. With pain I call out to you, the Rebbeinu Shalom. Explains of Shimshon Pincus, Amoy de Kazach. He says, when things are going good with somebody, it's unfortunate, but it's a metzias. We tend to forget about the Rebbeinu Shalom. And when we tend to forget about the Rebbeinu Shalom, we don't daven. But when things aren't going so well, I have a tzara, whether the shalom bayis is difficult, or whether the chinuch habanim is difficult, whether the job is difficult, or whether the family matzav is difficult, what happens? The next Shemona Esrei, you're pouring out your heart. Hazah is the metzias. And when you pour out your heart, the tefillos become miskabel. What happened with Leah? Leah thought she was going to marry Esav. She cried and cried and didn't stop crying. Not only did she get to marry Yaakov Avinu, she got to the Levi, which Kahanim and Levim come from. She got Yehuda, where Malchus comes from. She basically took over everything. So it was her matzav of tsar that actually caused that the Yeshua would come. There's actually a moed kavod from the Rebbe Binam, a half of the kavod. The Rebbe Binam writes on the pasuk Vayar Hashem v'tekane Rachel ba'achoisai v'atoymer Yaakov havli banim v'im'ayin meisa anoichi, that Rachel was jealous of her sister and she told Yaakov, give me children, if not I'm dead. What is this, a joke? If she won't have children, she's going to die? Explains the Rebbe Binam that Rachel saw that her sister, who felt like she was a snua, that she was hated, has children. And she said, wait a second, because I'm the beloved one, that means I don't have children. So she became jealous. She realized that the Eibishter loves those people who feel tzibrochen. So she was jealous of her sister, that her sister was in a matzav of tzibrochenkait, that she had that feeling of snua, and she was thinking to herself, halavai, I would also feel the same way, as Isaac Minim. And she told Yaakov that, give me children, if not, I'm dead. Because she knew that Yaakov was going to get upset at her. Yaakov was going to start screaming, you don't speak this way. So she'll feel tzibrochen, because he's going to scream at her, and then she'll become a snua, she'll become hated, and she'll be zoichet to children. She came up with a moide kechap. I have to put myself into a matzav that Yaakov is going to get upset at me. Yaakov is going to scream at me, you don't speak this way. And came Mesa Noichi. So it's like this, I'll feel tzibrochen. And the Maila, ultimately, I'll be able to have children. And the Baal Turim Gada writes that on the pasuk V'hoyu Sila Mitzvah Arza V'roisha Magia Hashemayim, he writes a moide kazach. He says it's a remes. It's hinting to someone who feels that he's on the ground. He's chopped up. He says he's Yal Shemaima. His tefillahs come all the way up. If you feel broken bazich, he says then your tefillahs are reaching the highest levels. And the Abarvanel writes a similar vart. Why didn't Leah give Haidah on the first 3 children? Only by the 4th children did she only say Apam Oides Hashem. Look at Abarvanel, a gewaltige chiddush. Because she knew that the Eibishter has achmanis on those who feel tzibrochen. And she knew that she deserves these children because she's taka tzibrochen in neshama. So she didn't feel like she was getting more than her chaylik. Because the derech of the Rebbeinu Shalom is to have achmanis on people who are tzibrochen. So there's a moed kamal, if a person feels like he was just banged over the head, and he takes a tillim, he says he could reach the highest levels and poilos the gasti yeshiyas. And it's a moed kazach, and the mailed side the first nakuda that you could handle, but if you're taka feeling down and out, abba, now's the time. We find it from Leah. Leah felt so tzibrochen, and because she felt so tzibrochen, ultimately she was zeicha to moed kazachen. It's got a moed kavart. We say by night in Vamuna Kol Zois, we use the lashon of Hamaver Bona Ben Yizay Yamsef. That's a famous name of Simon Tiba. Mashenken in the morning by Birchas Kishma Va'ezes HaVesayin, what do we say? V'yamsef la'makatam zaydim tevata v'yedidim havarta. We call Klal Yisrael v'yedidim. V'yedidim means friends. So in the morning we call them v'yedidim, and at night we call Klal Yisrael Bonim. Hamaver Bonim Ben Gizay Yamsef, so the famous name. Why in the morning are they Yedidim and at night they're Bonim? So one of the answers that they give is at night, in times when you feel like it's dark, then you get that closeness of being a Ben Lamakum. In the morning when everything is light, when the Parnasa is shining on you, when the Nachas is shining on you, when everything is going good, you don't feel that element of Banav Lamakam. There's actually the 2 places where Klal Yisrael is called Benibach, a child to the Rebbeinu Shalom. One of them is when the Yidden were in Mitzrayim, when they were going through terrible Yisurim. The Eibusha said Beni B'char Yisul. And the other places is when Lo'elain, someone loses a relative. There's a Isav Lo'isiskoidadu. You're not allowed to rip your skin. So over there the pasuk starts, Banim Atam Hashem Elokeichem Lo'isiskoidadu. The Torah where does the Torah call you Banim? in the place where you're feeling the most down and out, then you elevate yourself. The connection that you're zoich in those moments is a lot greater than when everything is running okay. And the emphasis of Leibele Eige Fierzos, gather with the shtickle of chizik. Basically, the Medrash said that Yaakov Avinu felt very tzebrachim. What do we find that Yaakov Avinu did when he felt tzebrachim? He was masakin tfilas marv. Yaakov Avinu felt tzebrachim. He came to Har Moriah, and what happened? It became dark. And what was Yaakov Avinu masakin? Tfilas marv. So he explains Moedik. What's taka the Indian of Tfilas Marv? The Indian of Tfilas Marv is it's dark at night. But what happens with the darkness? It eventually becomes daylight. Yaakov Avinu was masakin the Tfilah to teach us that even when it looks so dark, it's going to turn around and it's going to become light. Don't let the darkness get you. Connect in the zmanim of darkness. Connect in the zmanim of chashkes. Connect, because ultimately it's going to become light. It's only a temporary zach, and ultimately it's turning into lechtigkeit. And he teaches that's pshat hasoymach geula shel arvis, the tefillah shel arvis. Someone who's soymach the geula of marv to the tefillah marv, that he's soymach and mammon with the geula before he davens. Meaning, even at a time when it's dark, he believes that Yeshua is going to come. Miftach lo Yeshua ben olam haba. That means that his tefillahs are going to be accepted. If someone goes in with that feeling that I'm taked, my matzah in life isn't good, but I believe it's only temporary, and the Yeshua is going to come, he says, Miftach lo Yeshua ben olam haba, and the Yeshua taka will come. So I look there, again. And that's what all Alle Tzaddikim used throughout all the different challenges of life. There were two things. Number one, they understood they had to go through it. It's good for me. It's good for my shorish and shama. Even if I have somebody who's torturing me alive, this is exactly what I have to go through. And these challenges are good for me. It's not even kedai to speak about how I don't want it, because this is good for me. And the tzveit in the kudah is adab, if I'm feeling down and out, I could accomplish a lot more. Because ezimim Hashem, and the Zohar Kodesh Taka writes, Tfilah l'ani ki'atav v'nei Hashem yishvach sicha, that it's a kapitel in Kif Bayis, that the strongest type of tefillah that reaches the Rebbeinu Shalom is the tefillah of ani. When a yid davens with his heart broken, then the tefillahs come up to the highest place. There's actually a beautiful raya from this week's parsha to this Indian of tefillah l'ani ki'atav. What's the raya from this week's parsha? He says, we know that Leah was davening non-stop to marry Yaakov. What was Yaakov davening? Yaakov was davening to marry Rachel. Who won? Leah won. Why? Why was Leah's tefillah neskabel more than Yaakov Avinu? They were both davening for opposite things. Technically, they were. So someone could answer that it was good for Yaakov also. But one of the Mepharshim say a beautiful pshat. It says, how did Leah's tefillahs look and how did Yaakov Avinu's tefillahs look? Yaakov Avinu davened, he was in a good place. It seemed like his life was set up. It says, Nedachis Leah, when she davened, her heart was broken. She cried and cried and cried. When a yid cries with tears, it's eina doima to a tefillah that's said in a comfortable way. Tefillah that's said in a comfortable way, it's Mamayla, Leah's tefillah was stronger than Yaakov, and she won. And she ultimately won. And that would be a beautiful raya to this Yisod, that when someone is davens with a broken heart, says the Zohar Kodesh, those are the strongest tefillahs.
Well, so she was davening that. Didn't she think she was going to marry Esau?
Yeah.
So she was davening.
She was davening for her life.
Right.
But still, Yaakov was davening for Keret, and she won. She won. We see from there that Adab and Matzavim that are difficult ultimately could lead to the biggest brachas. That's why the smart people always say, why do we have to wait for tzaras? One of the avodas of tefillah is to recognize beforehand, to be a chacham of how much siyata d'shmaya we need. And when that happens, you're davening with your full heart. We need gesund, we need nachas, we need parnasa. We're a mess. We're literally a mess. If the Eibishter in 1 second, Lo'elaini could turn over, official told over this morning, an unbelievable story. It's for those who were here, heard it, how he watched it with his own eyes. Right, that's a bus was backing into a pile of snow, and literally before the bus was backing into it, a child jumped into the pile of snow and was building something over there. And the child had no idea that the bus was backing into it. And he saw the child going in, and he sees the bus backing into it. And he wanted to scream, but no voice was coming out of his mouth. And the bus starts backing with a starkheit, but mamish before it reached the snow, it skidded and moved away to the side. Nissim v'neflois. So the bus drove back. He was going to try again. In between, the child jumps out of the snow. The official's watching this and walks away. The second time, the driver revs up the engines and he pounds into the back and he goes right through the snow and he goes thumbs up to the other bus driver, Tzigalungan. The official's watching it with open eyes, and he hears down the block the child's walking, the mother of the child screaming at the child, and you went into snow with your Shabbos shoes? Hashem Yirachem, the child's life was just saved. If no one even chap what was going on. In 1 second, their life could have been crumbled. And tzaddikim used to say that we give shvach v'edu for the Eibishter. There's so many closed nissen that we don't even realize are happening. We're living, and all we do, we have tinus. We're screaming about this, screaming about that. We're a mess. A disaster. And that's why the smart people, they daven with such hearts. It drives me a little, I'm jealous a little bit of the oilam. I have to hurry up my tefillas. It's hard to get into it, but if no one's waiting for you, daven. Mamash, just put your thinking cap on. There's so much you have to ask for. And when a person davens with that tzabrach in the heart, it's based on everything we just saw. I want to touch on something that's one of the biggest kashas. I've spoken about it in the past, but it's what exactly happened over here. Yaakov and Rachel make up a deal that they're going to get married. And they make up that they're going to have the simonim, that because they knew that Lavan is this shaken, she'ein b'digmasim. And it comes the night of the chasana, and Lavan is into his business. He's going to do his job. So now Rachel is faced with a strong dilemma. What's she supposed to do? Her sister is going to get embarrassed beyond. So what does she do? She calls over Leah and gives over Leah the simonim. Leah Taka gives over the simonim and they get married. Yaakov wakes up the next morning and Yaakov's livid. Rightfully so. I meant to marry Rachel, and Bizdaval, I married Leah. So Bishloim Rachel, she could give over the simonim because she could give away from herself. But what right did she have to give over the simonim on Yaakov Avinu's cheshbon? She was hurting Yaakov Avinu. Didn't they make up that they would do a certain zach? It doesn't bother them, this kasha. Kasha is mamish. I think it's one of the strongest kashas that we have in this week's parsha. There's so many kashas, But am I allowed to do something that's going to hurt somebody else?
It's the same way Yaakov got the brachas.
So Yaakov got the brachas because he really deserved the brachas, because he was the bechor.
But also he got the simonim with the hair.
He was. But Lamaisi, he deserved it. It was his. He had bought the bechor. It was his. But over here, Yaakov legitimately made a deal with her, and she was double crossing him. And it's half of a fella that we don't even find that Yaakov got upset at Ruchel. If anything, I would have gotten upset at Ruchel. Who asked you to give it over? We tried to outsmart the system. He got upset at Lavan. He got upset at Leah. When he got upset at Leah answered him back. Shaitan Balaturim. He says, "Where do you think I learned it from? I learned it from you. Just like you tricked your father, I tricked you also." So she answered. She was a real wife. She answered him back as I said, on. He says, "Don't think that Vizai says the women are on their game. Don't mentions out the men when they have." But why didn't she get upset at Ruchel? I've said it over before, but it's a moedike limud haskell, and there's something even deeper that we may be able to get out of it. There was a famous, the Chazon Ish built up a large part of Yiddishkeit, being in Bnei Brak. Before the war, after the war, middle of the war, Chazon Ish was a beacon of light. So the story actually starts earlier. There was a Yid of Sheheshel Brim. Sheheshel Brim was a Sheshiva in Rizhina Yeshiva. And there was Loyalaini, a Yingaman who was nifter right before Pesach. And the Almana had children. Who was going to take care of the children? The kids of Sheheshel arranged that the Yingaman would go fear the Seder by this Almana. It came Pesach night after davening, after Geshmak HaHallel, and if Sheheshel Brim realized that the Yingaman who was supposed to go make the Seder by this Almana is not showing up. So he picked himself up and he went to his Almana's house and feared the whole Seder from beginning to end. Bizlaval in his own house, the whole mishpach is waiting. 1 hour goes by, another hour goes by, and they're mamish down shvilkas. They still have to make chatzos, tit afikoymen. It's a titzach ganze bulle. Finally, 25 minutes or half an hour before chatzos, if Sheheshel comes running in, he makes kiddush, kadesh, urchatz, karpas, yachatz, magad, so a side that you've never seen before. It was quicker than the sound of this. Than the speed of light. It was running mamish. And the son-in-law of Sheheshel Brim was there. He says he was Osman. She said, but this is Asayda. And he was kaching, and the whole mishpacha was sekacht. He says, why is this Hamana better than us? Sheheshel didn't answer them. He finished the afikoymen, and then everything slowed down. He says, let me tell you all a masa. He says, when I was a younger man, I was very close to the Chazon Ish. And the Chazon Ish asked us to find a shidduch for a certain bucha. Against the master, right? We worked on finding a shidduch, and it's a Baruch Shem gelungen. We found a meidl, and the Chazon Ish was so v'simcha. He told us that when it comes time for the Tanoim, call me, I myself, I want to come to the Tanoim. But make sure the whole Olam's there, and then call me, and then I'll come. Kitzur, they rented a hall, and the whole Olam came, and they're waiting, and Sheheshel with another chaver, they went to go call the Chazon Ish. They come into the Chazon Ish, and the Chazon Ish is sitting with a couple who had survived the Holocaust. This couple opened up a store to sell tchotchkelech. And one of the things that they used to do is they used to come discuss with the Chazon Ish what they should buy, what they shouldn't buy. The Chazon Ish was Hamishkov B'nei Hagoyla. But he used to be busy with them. He used to give them time. The kids said, they're sitting with the Chazon Ish. Should we buy such buttons? Should we buy those buttons? Those zippers? Chazon Ish was calm, giving them all the time in the world. And when the two Bachrim walked in, the Chazon Ish showed them like this, wait. 10 minutes go by, 20 minutes go by, 30 minutes go by. An hour goes by, and they're on shpilkas, the whole Olam's waiting, and Chazon Ish is taking his time for two people over here, a couple, over 100 people waiting for him. It was great fool. Doesn't make any sense. Finally, the Chazon Ish finishes, he says goodbye to the couple, and they leave. He then joined Rabbi Yechezkel with this other, and they start walking to the Simcha. And he turns to him and he says, Mistama, you're wondering what exactly happened over here. So let me explain to you. This couple is a couple that survived the Holocaust. They're nebuch zeh tzabrachim, shiva kailim. The truth of the matter is, it's the achrayus of all of Klal Yisrael to be busy with them. Why? Because Klal Yisrael has a achrayus to be machazik as al chayidim. Just, I'm doing it in the place of Klal Yisrael. So he says, you were worried about the other 100 people waiting. Those 100 people had to do the same mitzvah that I was doing. They were mechiyev to be busy with this couple. Because this couple needs the chizuk. So I had every right to keep them waiting. Because I was just doing their job. Turned Rabbi Yechezkel to his mishvucha and he says, Mantaye mishvucha. To take care of this almana and yisoimim was all of our achrayus. The fact that I went, I was just being yoytze, your achrayus. And Mamayla, that's why I had the right to do whatever I was doing. And I was just being the shliach of you to do the chayvus adam ha'olamai. Vietos of Yankel Galinsky with the Katzishta. If I remember correctly, I didn't see it this year, I saw it years ago. He says the same thing happened over here. Leah was in a matzav that she was going to become embarrassed. We would have killed Leah. Ruchel knew about it. But the emes is, Yaakov Avinu might have had the same achrayus to let Leah know that Leah shouldn't be killed. Because if she would have been embarrassed, imagine how it would have killed her. So Rachel made the cheshbon. I'm not doing it on Yaakov Avinu's cheshbon. Because Yaakov Avinu is also mechuyev to do exactly what I'm doing. And Mamayla, it's not being on his cheshbon. So feiksach the $1 million question. If that's the case, why was Rachel Imeinu zoicha to such great things? If she was doing exactly what she was mechuyev to do. And that Leah shouldn't have gotten embarrassed to the core. Why? We know Kol B'Rama Nishma, that the schus of Rachel Imeinu holds up Klal Yisrael for alle doyos, that she kept quiet and she gave over the Samunim. And the simple answer is even when we know the right thing to do, the ability to do what's right is godless. Because our emotions a lot of times want to take us over. Our emotions a lot of times tell us, don't do it. And the fact that we let that our moich should be shoylet over our lev. You know what Rachel was giving up? Even though it was the right thing to do, she was giving up her husband. How do you give up your husband? That was the godless of Rachel Imeinu. That even though she might have lost her husband for life, she did what was right because it was the right thing to do. And this is a very important yesod. This is where Klal Yisrael excels. And God, it bothers me a lot of times that people let their emotions take them over, ourselves included. I'm not saying I'm better. He says, this is the whole godless of Klal Yisrael. That Rachel kept quiet when she should have kept, because it was her chayv to do it. A lot of times doing what's difficult, even though it makes sense that we should do, people say, what was the grace of godless? What else was she supposed to do? What else was he supposed to do? This is godless. It says, when I have the right mahalach of what I'm supposed to do, that I control myself, and I don't let my emotions take it over, it says, then it's the ultimate in godless. It doesn't have to be crazy things that we're doing. Just getting control of ourselves to do what's right is the ultimate godless. I just want to finish off. We have to finish it. Okay, we'll stop over here. Yashakaya Chavayza.